I'm just a streaming dirtbag, baby. Come to my live stream, don't say maybe. It never ends till you go crazy. Oh, 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 oh. I'm just a streaming dirtbag, baby. Come to my live stream, don't say maybe. It never ends till you go crazy. Oh, 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 oh.
Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Untitled here, and I just realized I have the wrong background. There we go. Although that's a little messed up, so let's see if we can fix that. I'm getting used to this. I swear I'm going to get this down sooner or later, but that was just somehow got messed up. So, had a fun day today. Watched WandaVision, and wow. Not to pat myself on the back or anything, but looks like I was pretty much right on as far as what I thought was going to happen, which very cool. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that a bit tonight. Other than that, this is not going to be a particularly marathon long show. We're just going to hang out a little bit and see what comes up. And I'm waiting real quick because, let me see. And there, sorry, had to send a message out real quick. And so hopefully I'm waiting for, I know Daniel's waiting already in the back. I'm waiting for Darren because once I actually bring the screen up, I won't be able to see if he's there. And it looks like he is there now, so good. So let's get this set up here. Give me just a second, guys. It's not up yet. Yeah, that's you. Hold on. They can't hear you yet because I'm just getting the screen ready. And then, at least I don't think they could hear you. We'll find out in a moment. But now, we got all three of us on here. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Darren. How you guys doing?
Hello. I'm good. How about you? Hey, Daniel.
I'm not doing too bad. In fact, I got to say, while it was, and you remember, we talked about this last week as far as what was going to happen on WandaVision. And yeah, pretty much nailed it, right? It's clearly,
so far.
Yeah. Wanda's clearly generating this alternate world, this reality. The people of that town have been altered to become the people of her sitcom, and it looks, especially that little sequence when we see what happened between her and Monica, she's definitely looking like she's steering towards the evil side, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, which I'm all good with. I'm and the funny thing, and I don't want to get what you guys think. Now, I know, Darren, you're like an encyclopedia of comic book knowledge, but forgetting about that for a minute, it's not even that it follows a plot that they've done in the comics. It's the idea that what they're doing is a logical progression.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
Yeah, I was a little puzzled that they revealed in episode 4 that this is all Wanda's doing, seemingly, right. Which means that there's more to tell. There's more to be revealed. So it's possible that she is being manipulated by someone. Who knows?
That could be the Agatha angle that a lot of people have been speculating.
Could be.
On.
The other option is that the rest of the show is going to be all about Vision now, because we know what Wanda is about, but we don't know exactly what the situation with Vision is about yet. Right. And we have seen in trailers that they show him flying around above the town and fighting her. It seems like at one point, and so yeah.
I think that at this point, like that one shot where you see him with the hole in his head and everything.
Yeah.
I think at this point he's literally a walking corpse. That she's just animating his body.
Yeah, that's my new sleep paralysis demon.
What do you think, Dad? What are you getting out of the show so far?
I like it. I think it's all her doing.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's that will be interesting if she's gonna be the villain of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Because considering she was able to single-handedly manhandle Thanos, Doctor Strange is powerful, but even Doctor Strange and Thanos kind of they duked it out, but it wasn't like a one-punch thing like with Wanda.
Right. Yeah. The thing that's always sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The thing that's always kind of found interesting about Wanda and their choice to make her essentially having been augmented by the Mind Stone is that her powers are actually more akin to what you'd expect from the Reality Stone.
Right.
Even the wispy red energy she gives off is very much like the effect of the Reality Stone. It's crimson. It's all those things. So, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a new revelation about the source of her abilities. If that's the case, but who knows? At this point, what I like about this show is even the fans who know the backstory of the comic book character are still needing to know what happens. They're not going to give up watching the show now because they don't know what happens. It's thematically similar to what happened in the comics so far, but we don't really know.
Right. And by the way, I want to say, excuse me, hi to the folks that are in the chat real quick. Renegade, good to see you. Commander Schranz here. John DeMarco, Josh Street, Commodore Ty, and Captain Trek all in the house. Good to see you guys. And sorry, Josh, Turtistan forever. The God dictator Bert Opre 5 is, he's going down. No, I think, and this is something that may be an interesting, I don't know what they're going to do, but like if you're trying to think of how could you write something a little different than what we've seen in the comics, is what if now she, with what they did with the Mind Stone, all it did was link Wanda and her brother to the Infinity Stones, but each one of them linked with a different stone. So for her brother, it would have been the Space Stone. Notice that the effect of his running was kind of a bluish color, and obviously his hyper speed is very much about moving through space.
Right.
Where her powers are all about manipulating reality.
Right. Both perceived and actual reality.
Right.
So it's kind of,
So I could see them doing something like that, where it's possible for people to be linked biologically somehow to a stone, thanks to whatever Strucker did to them.
Right.
The other thing they could do is just straight up, let's bring in the M word. Are they gonna say mutants for the first time on this show?
There's been a lot of speculation online that this is going to lead to how the X-Men arrive in the MCU, and I don't think they're gonna do it this way.
Like the opposite of what you did in the comics.
Pretty much, yeah. And we just don't know. And what's funny is that it is shocking when you see Vision like that, the way he's actually kind of supposed to look, at this point, because this show has actually made me like Vision in a way I didn't like him before, because we know he's gone and all of a sudden he's back, and you're kind of, and of course he's making us laugh with this dated humor from all these sitcom, plots that he's involved in, and then you see him, the harsh reality that he's, but then again, we don't know. People forget that one of the big harrowing plots of Infinity War was they were trying to sever the Mind Stone from Vision, and they were almost done when Thanos plucked it out of his head. And so he might be okay, and that she just saw him that way briefly as like a memory or something. We just don't know. But Peter Bellamy, I think it's his name, Paul Bellamy, Peter Bellamy,
Paul Bettany,
Paul Bettany. That's right. Yeah, he's nailing it in this one for me because of all the diverse things that he's doing. He's playing the plucky husband on a sitcom, and then he goes back to being serious and Twilight Zone-y, and like I say, he's making me miss Vision at this point.
Well, so. I think it's interesting that a couple of times now throughout in the sitcom episodes, and hey, Professor, good to see you. But in the sitcom episodes and stuff, we've kind of gotten this impression that people get moments of lucidity where all of a sudden they kind of for a split second remember who they are, where they are, and they might say something, and then Wanda catches it and snaps it back. Right?
Oh yeah, like in the first episode when the boss was like, who are you? Where'd you come in? And the guy kept pounding the kitchen table, and she kind of. It was like he was trying to break free, almost.
Right. And same thing when Monica mentioned Ultron. Obviously she had this moment where she just kind of remembered it, but she couldn't remember how she remembered it. And so I think that's it's showing that she's not omniscient within her own realm, because she's not in 100% control.
Yeah, I mean, Monica was able to essentially sneak into her fantasy and and become a part of it for a brief time, and so that shows her lack of omniscience there. Darcy came into the show, and
As did Agent Wu. I love seeing Agent Wu again.
Yeah, I like when he flashed his card. He showed the card trick that Ant-Man taught him.
That was a great little touch. The fact that because he was so fascinated by Scott's sleight of hand from the movie, and now you can see it's obviously a little bit later, and he's gotten that trick down. And that was cool. I actually really like that.
The scene where and I do love the actress that they got to play Monica. I watched her on Mad Men. She ended up being Don Draper's final secretary on the show, Dawn, and. So she looks really good in 60s and 70s attire. And so it's not a stretch for her. But that scene where they discover the bubble in the town and is in a television sort of effect bubble, I thought that was really neat. This show has a budget, I've read, of $225 million, which is on par with an Ant-Man film in terms of how much.
Well, yeah, almost any solo Marvel film is in that general range.
And it looks like it. The production value of this series is like this could have been shown in theaters. In fact, it would have been a great serial if they still did movie serials in movie theaters. But the money is all there, and I have a feeling that we're going to see even more of a special effects blowout later on, just by what we see in the trailers.
Yeah, I think they've been carefully doing a slow build up because I get that. I didn't know the budget was that high, but I was kind of wondering what it was because I was thinking about are they going to build up to something that's going to include some massive visual effects, maybe some big name cameos? Like, are we going to see Doctor Strange in this show? That's a definite possibility. Is Monica going to develop her powers? Because it seems like at this point she is just a normie.
Well, I thought it interesting that she was able to survive being pushed through a brick wall and a fence and all those other things.
But was that just because of the weird reality she's in, or was that hurting?
Yeah, it could have been Wanda protecting her as she was shoving her away, because I mean she did help her deliver twins just a few seconds earlier. but thanks, bye, that kind of thing. But we don't know. I mean, I would certainly love to see the current MCU Captain Marvel go away and the one that we both like arrive, and I don't care what she wears. She can wear the slinky, the wizard sleeve outfit if she wants. I don't care.
Yeah, that's what I like. The black and white one that she had in the Secret Wars days. And no, I like that outfit. But whatever they do with her, I want to see her powers manifest in this show, and yeah, I want to see her ultimately replace Carol Danvers.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ways I think they can do that, and what I would love to see, especially if this, I don't think that Wanda's going to snap mutants into existence, but I think this may be the beginning of the introduction of mutants into the MCU. If they,
Right.
but if we start seeing mutants, hey, let's have in Captain Marvel 2 the infamous Rogue fight, and and so take her out, and then and keep in mind that of course Monica has a close relationship with Carol Danvers in this MCU. They established that very early on, so she could then take up the mantle.
The thing I don't want is for them to bring her up as bring her out as Photon, but keep Carol Danvers around, because I would prefer, wishful thinking on my part, let the Brie Larson era just kind of quietly go away,
Right.
and the more diverse version of Captain Marvel come out. But yeah, it's we'll see. We'll wait and see what happens. But no, Darcy was. I watched it twice. I watched it this morning, and then I watched it again right after work. And something I didn't pick up on right away was Darcy was a real ass to the guys there. I mean,
yes,
it's one thing to have an attitude, but it wasn't cute anymore when she told the guy nobody cares about his what his
well, yeah,
occupation is.
and that's why I was like, you and I were chatting back and forth through the workday, and that's something that kind of honestly, I liked Darcy's character more in the Thor movies than I like her now. I don't think she's a bad character. I don't hate her being on screen, but I just liked her pluckiness in the Thor movies. Now she's just like, she feels superior to everyone for some reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, bad mouthing all those guys, the guy in the van, and then the guy at her desk, and then but when she actually started contributing, finding the television signal,
right?
And things
well,
like
that was fine. I didn't have a problem with that, except for, and I know we talked about it a little bit today, but I kind of don't get that now. Like when she corrected it, it's like, no, that's doctor, and it's like, really, because we've only seen you as the assistant. And so that's kind of a big jump, especially since in the first Thor film, we find out that she's only working with Jane Foster because she needed the credits, and she doesn't even care about astrophysics. She's a poli-sci major.
Right. Yeah. And then the last time we saw her, of course, was in Thor 2, The Dark World, which was, you got to remember, that's got to be at least 7 years earlier, because, if you figure that Thor Dark World took place about 2 years before Infinity War, and then this takes place about 5 years after Infinity War. That's plenty of time to change your major and get a degree to the point where you're a doctor, particularly with the state of colleges after the blip. You gotta remember, they were dealing with 50% less people back then. So I mean, maybe they rushed her through, or who knows, but I didn't have a problem with that, and yes, I do like Kat Denning, but I legitimately didn't see a problem with her all of a sudden having a totally different profession and being a doctor in that profession if it's been that many years.
Yeah, but it just felt like it was like, huh, what? Because she's a totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, her attitude is different. Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing about her character that's the same except she's a little snarky.
Yeah, I think hopefully we'll hear more about this change. But it sounds like almost like maybe they intended Jane Foster to be in this show, and then they stuck her. That's
kind of what I think, is that like they wanted it to be Jane Foster, but they couldn't get Natalie Portman to do a lowly streaming show because she thinks so highly of herself. And quite frankly, I'm very disappointed that they got her to come back as Jane Foster. And I'm not saying that because, first of all, I think Jane Foster in the Thor movies was rather underwhelming anyway.
Yes.
And let's see.
I would have preferred Kat Denning play Jane Foster.
Yeah.
Not play it the same, but yeah.
But but yeah, Jane Foster was kind of underwhelming. She was just a plain Jane, no pun intended there. And honestly, I was not interested in her character at all. And then when she came off, the actress Natalie Portman is like, "Oh, I'm too good for these superhero movies now," and walked away from it. And so they were like, "Okay, screw it. We'll just, we did Ragnarok, where we don't even talk about it. We wrote her out of Civil War. They did all this stuff to make it work, and now all of a sudden she's coming back for Love and Thunder because the MCU is the biggest franchise in the history of humanity now, right?
And Black Swan didn't make enough money,
right? And so now all of a sudden she's willing to stoop down to the super. I'm sorry, they should have done the same thing they did with Terrence Howard. They should have done the same thing they did with what's his face from the Hulk. Gosh, now I'm having a brain cramp.
Edward Norton.
Norton, yeah. They just say, you know what? Fine, you're too good for us. Bye, and replace her. I have zero respect for the fact that they brought her back when they didn't do that for Terrence Howard or Edward Norton.
Yeah. Well, Terrence Howard, you know the story behind that, right?
Well, he wanted more money for Iron Man.
Well, here's the deal. In Iron Man, he was the highest paid actor because he was one of the first hired, and that's just how it went. And Robert Downey Jr., of course,
and he was a hot commodity at the time. Robert Downey was kind of blacklisted at the time.
Exactly, yeah, and he was Robert Downey was, of course, took the job and offered to do it for less, and when it came time to renegotiate for the sequel, he's like, "No, I don't want to renegotiate my contract. I want the same amount I got paid last time." They're like, "Okay, bye." So Don Cheadle is waiting in the wings, and that's just
right. And Don Cheadle ain't stupid.
No, as far as
which is too bad.
Edward Norton goes.
Yeah, I like Terrence Howard. I really did, but honestly, I like the fact that their attitude was the part is bigger than the actor.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Even a lead like the Hulk. I mean, I thought Edward Norton was great, but from what I've heard, he was trying to pull that movie and that and the whole MCU in its infancy into a direction they didn't want to go. And
well, it's fun. Did you watch the behind the scenes stuff on Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, I have.
If you notice, it's pretty obvious Edward Norton wanted to basically take over that movie. He was involved in everything. And I know that they gave him a little bit of leeway because he was a big name at that point, and he was going to be the biggest named actor in the MCU at that point. But honestly, he wanted more creative control, and it was like, not going to happen. See you later. No. And hello,
not for
Mark
a combined
Ruffalo.
Universe not for a combined universe like this. There was a story that Berman Braga, sorry, what's his name? The director of the first Thor movie.
Gosh, no, I'm forgetting.
Brent, I gotta look it up now. It's right on the tip of my tongue here. Kenneth Branagh, that's what it is.
Yes.
Kenneth Branagh. That because Kevin Feige wanted the Led Zeppelin music to be in the first Thor movie, and Brannon's like, no, and I don't think he got to direct another movie after that. But
the funny thing is, they really found Thor in Ragnarok. They did. And it's like Thor is the problem with the Thor as a character is that while Thor in the first Thor and the Dark World was probably a little more comic accurate, but he's a boring character. It's why Thor was never really the character that people were like out to, I got to get the next issue of Thor. Nobody cared about Thor.
Well, during Walt Simonson's run, he was popular, but that had more to do with the whole production or the whole comic. It was a combination of Simonson's art, the fact that there were a lot of guest stars in there. I mean, Thor sometimes would be almost a supporting character in his own comic, because they had Sif, Baldur the Brave, Beta Ray Bill, and Loki, of course, and so it was almost like a team book, but
you could have called it the Asgardians.
Yes, you could. And Thor, I'm sorry, but with a character like that, if you're gonna depower him the way the cinematic universe did, you got to make him more interesting. You can't depower the character, but have him still act as not bland, but the same way that the character acts. Yeah, and I thought that Thor Ragnarok not only gave us the most accurate Hulk so far, but Thor's arrogance and the chumminess that he had with the Hulk and also with Loki was really a hallmark. Yeah, I agree with you. We didn't really see a truly realized Thor until Ragnarok, and then of course that's also happens to be the movie where they destroy his hammer, his signature weapon, and
Right.
they cut his hair, and all kinds of stuff.
Which is kind of funny, yeah, because you would think that all the changes they made would make it the least Thor-like. And granted, I didn't like the hair choice. I didn't like the hair, the one eye thing. Okay, I could kind of see, but I'm glad that they found a cheat to get out of that in the next film, because I don't want to see him with an eye patch.
There was some questionable characterization choices. Him begging Stan Lee not to cut his hair,
right?
Even though it was played totally for laughs.
Well, just like when he screamed at the beginning when he was going through the tunnel, you know, and he sounded like a little
the Willy Wonka music playing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing though, is that I think where Taika Waititi hit gold was to kind of recognize it's called a comic book for a reason,
right?
And so let's embrace the comic part of comic, and that's another thing that made it so fun was that, I mean, my gosh, the guards and stuff, those were like absolute Jack Kirby drawings come to life.
Oh yeah,
definitely. And I love that, because I never thought, because I granted, I'm not a huge Jack Kirby fan as far as his art style. I never liked his cosmic stuff much, but I loved seeing that brought to life in a way. It worked. It absolutely worked. And so, I want to see more embracing the cheese, so to speak. And I think that Marvel can do it as long as they don't try to get all political or anything like that. Now, Dreamers Out There, he retracted, but then reposted. Well, I want to see what you say about this. He says, I heard that Terrence Howard helped to get Robert Downey Jr. the job. Junior wanted more money in Iron Man 2, and he got them to take it from Terrence Howard's pay. No, here's the thing about movies, Dreamers Out There. Robert Downey Jr. was underpaid in the first Iron Man movie, and they were just basically, he was on probation as far as Hollywood was concerned. He was absolutely blacklisted, and he was given a shot, and he hit gold. And so, honestly, he's still not a particular popular person in Hollywood, because he is infamously conservative, which basically just means he's, centrist by our standards. But he's, and I saw an interview with him. I don't know if you saw this, but it was actually really interesting. I can't remember who it was that was interviewing, but they said, you've been known to be politically conservative, and isn't that kind of strange for a Hollywood actor? And Robert said, look, I don't like talking about politics, but I'll just tell you this is, I did some, I was the absolute epitome of Hollywood excess in the 80s. I was doing all the drugs. I had all the hookers. I was doing all the crazy stuff that Hollywood people do. And then I got myself in some trouble. I ended up in prison. I saw some things that no human being ought to see, and you can't get through that system alive and come out still being liberal. And I was like, wow, and so that's why he's not particularly liked. But then he, he proved that his acting and his characterization of Tony Stark was way beyond what anybody cared about his politics.
Right.
It was so freaking awesome.
I enjoyed Iron Man 2 and 3, even though they weren't particularly great movies, just because he was in it and doing his usual Tony Stark thing. I don't think those are bad movies, even though if somebody else was playing, that character, I probably would say it was bad.
The funny thing is that, like, when I remember when I first found out Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Iron Man. Now, I knew what his face looked like, and I was like, okay, he looks enough like him. Put the mustache on him, I can see it. But I didn't know anything about Robert Downey Jr. because I never gave a crap about the Brat Pack. The only thing I knew about Robert Downey Jr. is he was on one season of Saturday Night Live and sucked. That's pretty much all. yeah.
That whole troop sucked. I mean, Anthony Michael Hall, I think, was in that show too.
And so was Joan Cusack was in that cast. I mean,
Yeah,
they were.
that's
And the
true.
funny thing, I have all these names, and they all sucked. But anyway,
Yep.
so I didn't care for I didn't know anything about Robert Downey Jr. except for that. Mrs. Antitrekker, on the other hand, wasn't a comic book fan, but she knew Robert Downey Jr. because she loved the Brat Pack films.
Oh yeah.
And so
John Hughes.
Yeah, she loved the John Hughes films, and she said, "Well, what's Iron Man all about?" And so I said, "Well, Tony Stark is kind of a dick. He's an alcoholic, a partier, and he gets himself into some trouble, builds a suit of armor that keeps him alive because of an accident, and he kind of redeems himself and becomes a superhero." She goes, "Are you kidding me? That is Robert Downey Jr."
Pretty much, yeah.
And I was like,
He was,
"Oh, okay." So
yeah. People say he just plays an amped up version of himself when he plays Tony Stark. So yeah, might be why it comes. I mean, it's who else does the same thing is Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
He just loses it. He's just playing himself when he plays almost every character.
Jeff
he's ever
Goldblum in
played.
Thor Ragnarok. That was so. Oh man, it's like, what? You're gonna kill him? It was. It's not a capital offense. You don't get the kill stick.
Well, he's just like, watch out for his fingers. They make sparks.
Yeah. Oh, it sparkles. Captain Sparkles. But yeah,
Lord of Thunder.
Yeah. Dreamers Out There agrees, and I gotta say, yeah, Lord of Thunder. I'm God of Thunder. Oh, I see some sparkles there. Brian McFarlane says, "Hi-ho, everybody. How you doing, Brian?" Man, sorry, my eyes are irritated today.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just want to read a couple of chats real quick.
Sure.
Dreamers Out There liked Iron Man 2 and 3. Yeah, I think the Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 was, I thought, really good. The problem with it is that I know it pissed off some comic book nerds because of what they did with the Mandarin. But at the same time, I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think that it was as good as the first Iron Man, but I thought it was a solid film. And the problem was that movie kind of ended the story for Iron Man, and then he comes back in Age of Ultron with no explanation whatsoever. The only time he got an explanation was actually in Infinity War.
Yeah, I think he said that Pepper and he were taking a break or something, and he couldn't stop. He tried to stop building the armor and couldn't.
Right.
But
it was like, what they don't explain why why is he still Iron Man? Why does he still have the glowy thing in his chest? None of that made it.
They did. In Infinity War, But
in Infinity War, that's a half a dozen movies later.
Well, he at the end of Iron Man 3 is when he had the surgery that fixed his chest.
Right.
Now keep in mind he had a gaping hole over his heart where that contraption was. I mean, so that you think to me that's going to leave a mark, but I'm not a surgeon. Okay, right. So
I could see they'd have to do some kind of. I mean, like his sternum just isn't there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but it makes me squeamish thinking about it. But then then he appears in Civil War, and it was like he wasn't Iron Man anymore, and I think what he decided he basically put on a suit of armor to go after Cap. Remember, because
I think you're thinking of
telling.
I think
he's
Civil
telling
War was before
Ross,
Iron Man 3, wasn't it?
He's telling Ross that that let him go after the two of them, and Ross is like, "Well, what makes you think you're going to have a chance?" He goes, "Because I won't be wearing a pair of loafers and a
I love that
and a sports jacket, and so I got the impression that he came sort of out of retirement for that, but
I'm looking right now. Yeah, I guess you're right. I forgot that. Let's see. Winter Soldier, Guardian. No, Avengers: Age of Ultron was after Iron Man 3 and before Civil War. It was Age of Ultron was his first appearance after the surgery, and and in that they did not address it at all.
Yeah, they just mentioned that he and Pepper were taking a break, and that
Right.
was, I think, it. Yeah, so you're right. They didn't really get into that too much, but do people complain really? It's like, oh, Iron Man's back, great. We get more of what we like, but but I'm not going to like it because they didn't explain why he came back.
Right. Admiral Saval says, "Yo, how you doing?" And Cade says something about GameStop, Reddit, and Wall Street. Someone mentioned GameStop to me. I don't know anything about it, so I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, that's an interesting story that's everywhere right now. But I'm not ignoring it, but I'm not going to get into it.
Right. I like Jeff Dreamers out there says I like Jeff Goldblum when he says, "Why are you handing me the melt stick? He interrupted me. That's not a capital offense." Exactly. Jeff Goldblum was the most Jeff Goldblumy he's ever been when he was the game master or the what's his name again? Oh man.
Oh,
the
Thor
collector and the Grandmaster. Thank you. But yeah, and I want to see the collector and Grandmaster together.
I would. In fact, I would like to see more of the Elders of the Universe. That's what they are now.
Right.
They had an opportunity to show us one, and they kind of botched it with Ego, because Ego's human form looked a lot like the Gardener, who was another of those Elders of the Universe. So we're not going to get a Gardener, but a champion would be interesting.
I think it would be. I think we may get Jeff Goldblum back. But one thing that I think was interesting, because they didn't, they just left it, vague enough. But you notice, like when he was saying, time works differently here. So while only a few days went by over there, it's been, or let's say a couple of days was here, it's been months over on your planet. So in your world, I'd be like thousands of years old, and here I'm.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't finish that because he's like millions of years old,
Right. So, and what's something that I didn't get when I first saw it, and I got it on subsequent viewings, is they were hinting that Grandmaster liked Loki.
Yes.
In a way that's not savory, and I thought he was just like they were counter manipulating each other, but no, there's something a little bit different there. But no, Champion of the Universe is another member of the Elders of the Universe that his big thing is he likes to hand-to-hand fight everybody, and he's called the Champion because he's beat everybody.
What power level is he, as far like, is he Hulk level strength or?
Oh yeah, he's like okay, well, there's a Wikipedia article, but basically he's like a Silver Surfer level person, but he channels it all into physical strength and durability.
Right. So he has basically an infinite supply of energy that he manifests as physical strength.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And he did beat the Hulk, because the Hulk isn't gonna, isn't gonna win against somebody like that. And in fact, the one who, because he was in a story that was published in the late '60s, the one Marvel superhero that gave him the most trouble, ironically, was the Thing. Even though he's, the Thing is not.
Yeah, the Thing's not that strong.
He's not that strong, but it was a skill situation. So what the Champion would,
Ben is a very skilled fighter.
Yeah, he's just been in a lot of fights. He's more skilled fighter than the Hulk, for example. But his power level is always insufficient. But no, he actually considered Ben Grimm to be the best the best fighter in the that he when he came to Earth, and he didn't fight Thor because he doesn't fight anybody with a weapon. He does strictly hand to hand. But yeah, so you have that character in there somewhere. That'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, we don't know if Tobin the Collector is even alive, because the last time we saw him, it wasn't actually him. It was a Reality Stone construct that Thanos created for the illusion when he entrapped Gamora. And when they showed him like in the box giving her an applause when she seemingly killed Thanos, but then the reality, the veil lifts and the cage he's in is empty, so we don't really know what happened to him at all.
Yeah,
but I like Benicio del Toro. Sorry.
No, I think that there we go. I was looking for. No, I don't know if that's him or not. So Ensign Ricky was asking to come on, but Ensign, just so you know, and it's not a diss on any of you guys that I know, but I can't just put the link out there because I've had too many times where I do that and then somebody comes on and is like does things to try and get the channel taken down. So we're not going to deal with that. So if I don't know you and I can't reach you on the side, I'm not putting out the link publicly. So, but you can let me know if you hit me a message. I can't remember if I know that I've communicated with you, Ensign Ricky, but I can't remember if it's Skype or Twitter or whatever. But I don't have Discord up because I can't run that while I'm doing all this stuff. I know you're on either Skype or Twitter with me, but I can't remember which one.
You know, what's interesting is we were supposed to have seen Black Widow by now. And so you got to remember that I think WandaVision was planned to come out after whatever we saw in Black Widow too. So it's, you know, it's kind of wonky right now.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if they release Black Widow on Disney Plus at this point.
Absolutely.
Just wrap it up into put it into, or maybe chop up the movie into 2 parts or 3 parts or something and do it that way. But no, I'm digging WandaVision in terms of its avant-garde nature and the fact that it's again, people are screaming, why are you just dumping the whole thing out? No, that's not how you're supposed to watch television.
Yeah, it's not fun that way. I actually, it's funny because when the other day we were talking to, and now I'm forgetting his name like an idiot. Just a second.
While you're looking that up, I'm going to go Jaloja real quick.
Yeah. And let me see if Ensign Ricky is there yet. There he is. Hello,
What's
Ensign.
up?
And
I gotta pop out this chat real quick because I can't see chat on your StreamYards. Thank God you can pop out chat on this YouTube.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually one of the YouTube enhancements that I'm on board with. That's not very many of them, but there are things occasionally. Let's see, where is the right? Oh, I'm in the wrong videos. All right, it's that on last.
Man, I drank a lot of tea today.
Whoa, you are way louder behind the scenes than you are on the actual thing.
See, that's the thing. Everybody says, "Oh, he's so quiet," and it's like, yeah, you don't realize.
Like on like the actual YouTube channel, he's quiet, but in StreamYards, he's way loud.
Yeah, Eric Hayden. That's who I was trying to think. I was on PJ Orville Nation's channel the other day with Eric Hayden. If you don't know the name, you do know his work. He is the guy that designed and puppeteered Doc Ock's arms in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
But anyway, I can't remember what it is now, but you made me think of something. Oh yeah, what was it? Someone was asking about whether or not you prefer to binge or watch an episode a week. And I'll tell you this, is that if I'm watching a show that's already been released, I will binge the crap out of it, right? Every single time. I'll watch, as many episodes as I can squeeze in a day. And that's fun, but there's no suspense in that. And I think that the reward, like in this reward for watching the reveal of what's going on behind the scenes with WandaVision was better because we had to wait 4 weeks to get to it. And now we're wondering what's next, as opposed to wait 5 minutes and let me queue up the next episode.
3 weeks, because the first 2 episodes were released the first week.
That's true. 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's a couple shows that are following what The Expanse did, was release the first 3 episodes right away, and then go week to week. And there's like a few shows that did that. It's like a new model they're trying to adapt.
Right. And I can see the advantages both ways. The binging can be fun, but at the same time, then you got to wait even longer before you get the next season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's week to week.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 3 episodes really did get you on board, especially this season. They put you right in the thing where like you just couldn't wait for episode 4. So they did it right. And then a lot of seasons I think are going to be set up like that, where the first 3 episodes are going to be a complete fucking banger, where you're just like, oh fuck, I can't wait to see what happens, and then you're stuck. You know what I'm saying? Basically, they get you in.
Well, yeah. They ended the 3-episode arc with Earth getting pummeled. So it's like, yeah, you need to see what's going next. And Robert is in the house. Says hi. How you doing? Good.
The only show I've ever binged was the first season of Breaking Bad. I can't watch more than 2 episodes at a time.
Yeah, there's some shows you have to take slow, man. You just can't. I can't do it all at once.
Right, and when I for example Mandalorian, it took me about a month to get through the whole Mandalorian show. I could have watched that whole series in probably one Saturday or Sunday.
Right. Are they hour episodes?
They are 40 some odd minutes each.
Oh,
they're like an hour.
Yeah, they're
rough.
Settling.
Right. I mean, it's not like old style television where there were 44 minutes of content to allow for 16 minutes of ads.
Well, I mean, there's special instances where they had to ask for more. You know what I'm saying? Like even Star Trek, where you had to well, we need these extra last 5 minutes. What can you do? Right. They'll give it to them. You know.
And Arabic throws in a couple of bucks as Jolan True. Thank you so much, my friend Jolan True, to you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but hey, super chat, man, I'm greedy, so I get the money.
No, it's fine. It's super chat. But
no, I like Mandalorian is another great one where it's all about watching this thing evolve over the course of 8 or 9 weeks. I would like it if my only problem with the streaming model, I think that the quality of the shows is inherently superior to what we're getting on television. And I think part of it is because they're not worried about format. They're not worried about censorship. They're just worried about what's going to fit the story. And so for that, I'm completely down. As long as they're not trying to make kiddie shows that then include graphic content or something, but as long as they're not doing something crazy, I'm totally cool with the freedom
AKA
that gives
Prodigy.
the artist. Huh?
It's an AKA Prodigy.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, oh man, don't even get me started about that. I don't know what's gonna happen, but anyway, and plus these streaming services are making so much money that they're able to pour a lot of resources directly into these projects. I mean, we're seeing massive amounts of money look at the quality of The Mandalorian and the quality of WandaVision, right? And these shows would not get that kind of budget if they were on NBC, right?
They would not, no.
Yeah. And
I think Game of Thrones, really, Mitch tried Game of Thrones changed the whole ordeal. That's when these television shows started getting multi-million-dollar budgets, where Game of Thrones, $10-20 million an episode was unheard of.
Well, Game of Thrones being a paid channel exclusive though is different than getting ad revenue from NBC or CBS or something. It was
this is true.
I mean that was a complete. I mean I remember back when it was controversial when the Emmys started considering paid television, paid channel television shows, because The Sopranos came out, and there were some people that said, "Well, that's not real television. That's paid television." And
it'll be interesting to see are the Emmys going to start taking into account of something as streaming as a television show.
Right.
Like I'm because here's the thing: if the Emmys start qualifying streaming shows as television for their awards, guess what? You're going to shows like The Mandalorian and WandaVision and The Expanse and all this other stuff is hand over fist better than anything the broadcast networks are putting out.
Yeah, The Expanse killed it this season. I mean, I can't wait. The last episode's the next episode's the last one, and they smashed it out the park this season.
Yeah, all you're going to find on network television at that point are comedies and dramas. You're not going to find anything that requires a budget, unless you got an expensive actor
but even then, the writing is so schlocky. I mean, and that's I think part of the reason that I think that Star Trek Discovery is suffering so much as a streaming show. It's not the streaming format, it's the fact that CBS is just trying to take the same people that were making CBS TV shows and make a streaming show. And so we're just getting CSI in space. It's no better than all the other, and it is amazing. If you go on to CBS All Access, pick a show. If it's a dramatic show, it's going to be the exact same format as Star Trek Discovery. Granted, Discovery has got a little more, identity politics rammed in there. But I mean, people, a problem comes up. People get together and meet. They discuss what the problem is, and then magically assume whatever the actual answer is correct, and then they resolve it. And it's it's so, it's just It's the same
The
show.
Orville has a production value. It's way higher than it would be if it was on network television too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, what's interesting, and that's why we were talking to Eric on Orville Nation's channel, because Eric is one of the co-supervisors of the visual effects for Orville season 3.
Wow.
He came on to the show this season. This is their first season as a streaming show, and he basically kind of confirmed that you're going to see production value unlike anything you saw for the first 2 seasons.
Nice.
Like ramped up.
Yeah, they said with Doug Drexler, they did Trek Yards did that interview with Doug Drexler.
Yeah,
and Doug Drexler works on the Orville now. And
and Drexler is serious. Drexler was one of the guys behind Battlestar Galactica.
He's been in Trek since the 70s.
Yeah,
and production all throughout TNG, all the Berman Trek basically. But yeah, basically he came off their show saying, "Hey, this is going to be a lot grander, a lot bigger." He's like, "I'm excited for people to see it, but this is before COVID shut everything down." You know, they did that interview, and he pretty much gets explained. He's like, "They took a lot of chances, and we're going to see if it paid off." And I can't wait. I really can't, because he's saying it's about an hour an episode, and some episodes go up to an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. So that's
I'm so looking forward to it. I really am. I can't wait till this. They haven't given a date yet or anything, but
no, they have. I think up to episode 7. I think is done right now. Right. They had 4 in a bag when COVID hit, and then that slowed everything down. I think they're on around episode 7 or 9. I haven't looked at JP's channel in a while. He usually gives you updates on that. But I mean, that was the big argument. Seth was like, I want to do more than 42 minutes.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, I'll get to the chat in just a minute, but I want to I do want to say one thing. The thing I don't like about the streaming model, I think the quality overall is better. I think that the shows that we're seeing are obviously way better just in every measurable sense, except one. I am sick and tired of a 10-episode season. I think that is absolute garbage. You can do. I mean, granted, I know that these shows are expensive, but I also know they are making money, and so they can absolutely do a 20-episode season.
I mean, like Robert Hewitt Wolf said it best, because I mean, like, obviously he was a great Trek writer, but he went to do elementary, and I asked him a couple questions, because you can hit him on Twitter and ask him anything, he'll answer it. I was like, what do you think is the best amount of episodes per season to write out, this new 10-episode thing or the old Trek 26? He is like, the sweet spot's about 22.
Yeah. So, which is ironically as many episodes as Star Trek: The Next Generation season 2 had.
Right. You know,
yeah,
he's like
there's always an exception to prove the rule.
22 episodes is a sweet spot, and that's good enough to tell a story, develop characters. You know, do a lot of practice a lot of the elements you don't get in a 10-season episode, where everything's like fire and miss.
Plus, you know, the thing is, I mean, when you had seasons that were 26 episodes, you always ended up with, you know, the amnesia episode, or the clip show, or, you know, all these other things.
Yeah, but I feel sorry for the actors nowadays, because it's like back in the day, you had multiple episodes to shoot your shot. I mean, one character would have several episodes dedicated to them. Like, you'd be like, oh, that's not such a great Kira episode. Well, this Kira episode is great. They had multiple chances to shoot you. Now today's world, and 10 episodes, you have what you have on that screen, that 5 minutes, to make it worth fucking something, or you're fucked. You don't get an episode. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you know, like every show is the Michael Burnham show, for example, on Star Trek Discovery. There is no Awashikun show. There's no Reese show. There's no, you know,
right,
Detmer
and that's
show.
what we're missing. We're missing, like with Discovery especially, like a small scale show like The Mandalorian. I think works better in that format, or even WandaVision, because the show is focused in on 1 or 2 people, right? WandaVision is really about 2 people, Wanda and Vision. Right. And yes, we have, like, this was an interesting episode, this last one, because it had the very least amount of Wanda and Vision in it. But this was our let's develop the other characters episode, you know. But when you have a show like a Star Trek show, we need to have a show that focuses on all the secondary characters. We need to have a show that is about these people, so we get to know what makes them tick, as opposed to, oh yeah, I grew up diving for abalone so I can hold my breath for a long time.
Right. Out of nowhere.
I'm saying that because I need to hold my breath this episode.
Right.
And so
or
like
in the jungles of Carbania, where we were stuck as children under the water for 10 hours.
Yeah. And what's her name that I always referred to as Robot Chick from season 2? Yeah, and it's like all of a sudden they have an episode that gives her some character, and then they kill her
in the same episode.
Yeah, and it's like,
I mean, I give credit. Okay, I give credit to Discovery just because it became more of an ensemble show this season, and they did work on some things. Some things they did a lot better. I like the technology. I actually like the Admiral. The Admiral guy was actually pretty solid.
Yeah, Admiral Vance is cool enough, but the problem is that he's just like the guy that they go to his office and he tells them what's going on.
Daddy Admiral,
and so he's relegated to Magnum PI's boss. That's who he is. That's why I say it's the same with all these different shows.
But I mean, like they did improve like 100% on some things, but I mean, there's still a lot of things they can't break away
but the whole
because
thing
they're
with
in
the
too
burn,
deep, like such as Michael Burnham saving the day. I mean, that's something I don't think they'll ever break away from, because you just
but this time they actually this season they said it in dialogue twice. I mean, that's
then some episodes they had her sit back though. I mean, they had her more of like a
but to have them actually say Michael saved the day, I was like, are you seriously writing that as dialogue for this show? Because
I don't agree with all the like, Michael, you're the only one.
Yeah. Somebody wrote it.
Shit that you get, because you get it a lot, and it's like here and there where someone will be like, if it wasn't for you, Michael, if it wasn't for you. But like I said, like they did improve on a lot of things this season. Right. Is it the greatest show ever? No, fuck no. They still have a lot of fucking work to do.
I'm sorry. I hated this season just as much as any other. I gotta say, look, the first 2 episodes gave me hope, because I actually liked Michael better in the first episode of the season than I liked her at all in season 1. And then in the second episode, I really liked that episode until Michael just magically shows up and saves the day at the end. But then it just became the Michael Burnham show over and over and over again, and I got tired of it. And then they promote her because reasons. There was no reason to promote her to captain.
One thing I was just like, oh my god. The 2 things I hated the most was her making captain and the burn.
The burn is a temper tantrum.
Yeah, I mean, like that with those 2 storylines are completely flat. Right. And I was hoping they would make her captain at the end of the season, but I was like,
but remember, like what happened with the song? Oh, I guess that means nothing. All right.
Yeah, the song.
We set up a mystery that has no relevance to a season, where you don't do that on a serialized show.
Also,
you don't do that when you've got several cooks in the kitchen. Now, Stephen King had
a casualty of 10-episode seasons, basically, or because it's like you are forced to introduce the big bad. If you looked at older Star Trek, like the last few episodes of the season is where shit went down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't know anything. You didn't know about the Borg in the beginning of season 2. You know what I'm saying? Like like when they were introduced, you're like, oh fuck. And then by the time, they come to fruition, you're like, oh, fuck. But that was at the end of the season. But
think about this is that, like, this is where the writers really need to learn something. In Star Trek The Motion Picture, as bad a film as some people think it is, I don't think it's horrible. I just think it has some serious pacing issues.
I just think it's boring. I don't think it's a bad episode. I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think it's boring in parts.
But there's a scene in there, remember, when Kirk comes back, and he assumes command of the Enterprise. And then the one dude says, and what about Captain Decker? And Uhura looks at him and says, our odds of coming back in one piece may have just doubled, right? Now, the reason that if you're watching that movie, you're like, yeah, it's because you've seen how awesome Captain Kirk is. You know what Captain Kirk is capable of, not because you were told that in dialogue.
Absolutely.
Right? It was confirming what the audience already knew.
I mean, because obviously we've seen this dude on many different adventures,
right? But with Burnham, it's just everybody's just got to say how awesome she is.
A lot of the movies were written with Kirk in mind. Like even in Voyage Home, basically, when they came up with the idea to go around the sun to go back in time, it was an idea brought up by Spock, a theory brought up by Spock, but Kirk confirms the idea, and that's how they write. Like, it has to be Kirk's initial idea that makes it. Like the people will be like, well, this captain, and then Kirk will be like, I got it. And Kirk is supposed to be the one, and that's how they wrote it. Kirk was the one that solved the problem.
But Kirk is also, like it's. And the way they balance, I think, and I do think TOS did it better than any other series, but Kirk was always he listened to what everybody said, and then he made his decision based on the available information. And his decisions usually made sense, except for in a few episodes. Like, I just finished watching Conscience of the King, and it's like, dude, you're one of 3 living eyewitnesses to this guy. You have pictures of him. You ran a voice print ID that came back positive, and you're not sure you want to arrest this guy? But whatever.
I think the best is when he just fucking leaves the planet after the planet's going to hell. The one they were arming or the situation. I think it was the chick that was
Private Little War.
Private Little War, and then fucking at the end of the episode, he's just like, "Fuck it, we're gone." See ya. What I'm saying? Like,
we'll give him some guns. We're out of here.
They'll
be fine.
They'll be great.
So Bradley wants to know, what are our thoughts on HBO releasing 6 movies at once? I'm fine with it. The only thing I didn't like was that, like, with the HBO, here's the stupid thing. I have HBO Max as an add-on to my Hulu subscription, and I couldn't watch Wonder Woman 84 on it. Don't know why. If you have it as an add-on, you don't get it. You have to subscribe to it independently.
What?
And so I was completely pissed off about it, because I was like, I'm going to watch Wonder Woman, and then I couldn't find it anywhere. I was searching and searching and searching.
Well, basically, you have to double pay.
Yeah, so basically I would have to cancel my Hulu add-on and just do an HBO subscription, and that kind of pisses me off. However, I will be honest with you, come March, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I am not going to miss Godzilla. Sorry, that's because holy crap, that trailer was awesome.
Unless you're the critical drinker.
Oh, don't even get me started about the critical drinker. I used to respect him. I used to. I told you about his Godzilla video.
Well, I saw the video. He seems to randomly pick something to not be all that great at every once in a while. He didn't like The Mandalorian either. He made fun of that.
Right. But, well, he's just a contrarian. That's all he is.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, he's funny. He's absolutely entertaining. But what pisses me off is that, and because I've seen him do it in back-to-back videos, and I was actually going to do a little commentary on it, but then I said, I'm not going to be a dick about it. But where in one video, and I think it was actually when he was talking about The Mandalorian, in one video he says, the reason this sucks is because it's too slow. I think that was Mandalorian. Then the next one he goes, this sucks because there's too much action, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, you just said the other...
Yeah.
But in this video,
right,
in this Godzilla video, he literally does this in one video where he says, when he talks about the trailer for Kong versus Godzilla versus Kong, he says, Godzilla 2014, it was okay, but it sucked that they didn't show you the monster. But boy, did they showed you the monster too much in King of the Monsters. Okay, what, dude? Just pick a direction and go with it.
Yeah. It's kind of like Plinkett.
Yeah.
He's
just a character.
People forget that the critical drinker is supposed to be an over-the-top,
right?
Character, but you don't necessarily go to him for an opinion when you think the movie might be good,
right? Well, here's
you
the problem:
definitely tune into him when you think it's bad.
But this is where I have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with Critical Drinker doing that, just like I don't have a problem with Doomcock doing that with his caricature, right? The problem isn't Drinker and Doomcock. The problem is their fans, because their fans absolutely do take them seriously.
Worship them.
Yeah, I mean, people, I can't even tell you how much hate mail I got over saying that freaking Captain Marvel wasn't the worst movie ever made, right? And so since I gave it a 6 out of 10, a mediocre rating, I got all sorts of hate mail, and guess what? Every one of them was quoting Doomcock. You know, and I was like, come on, guys. Seriously, look, I love Doomcock. He's very entertaining. When you talk to him, when he's not doing the crap, when you're just talking to him as a guy, he is a very cool guy, right? And I love him to death. But people think that his evil overlord personality is gospel truth. That everything he says on that, my secret sources tell me that Disney is falling apart at the seams, and it's like. You know, whatever.
We have word that Alex Kurtzman has killed a cat.
Yeah,
I'm like all over the bathroom wall of CBS.
That's why I kind of divorced myself from the Phantom Menace. Is that it's like people take this crap way too serious, and I'm sorry, you go to any one of their channels right now and look at their video history. They're still sitting there talking about Kathleen Kennedy every day, you know, and it's like, come on. That horse has been so freaking dead. It's in the glue factory.
You know, I mean,
I still like Midnight's Edge because they have a diverse,
they do.
Group of
Midnight's Edge is better on on that scale, but
so I mean, and I think there's good people in the Phantom Menace, but I think that a lot of it has to do with clicks and things of that nature as well.
And it's hard to fault them considering the kind of money they're making, right? I get it.
Exactly.
But at the same, but it's not them that I have a problem with. It is their followers that take that stuff way too serious, and so they think like, oh, you didn't hate Captain Marvel, you must be an SJW.
I will tell you, when I got Disney Plus, I saw that Captain Marvel was on there, and I still have not seen it. I tried watching it. I got like 5 minutes in and had to shut it off because I couldn't stand looking at her. I just couldn't stand looking at her.
Well, that's the problem. Is that the movie? If you hate Brie Larson, it's hard to watch a Brie Larson movie. Right. And that's why I divorced myself from the politics of these actors, because honestly, I know George Clooney is a raving lunatic, but you know what? I still liked him in Gravity, and I don't care if George Clooney is Batwoman crazy. I know that if you're looking at an actor in Hollywood, there's about a 9 out of 10 chance that they are a confirmed SJW nut job.
I mean, look at Jack Nicholson. You know what I'm saying? He's made a career off of being crazy. Bill Murray made a career off of being crazy. I mean, that's just how it is. I don't know.
My problem with Brie really solidified when they showed her sitting with other cast members of Avengers Endgame, and they clearly didn't want to be sitting next to her, especially what's his face, Hawkeye. And then
he was like, "I'm not your friend," or like he called her out or something. Did he?
Yeah, he was like sitting with his with his back towards her,
right?
And then you had Don Cheadle.
Watch that stuff. That honestly,
I understand, but she wasn't getting political. She was just being.
She's an annoying person. I would not want her in this room with me, right? She comes across as arrogant, conceited, and so full of herself, right? And I get that. And so if you actually like watching gossip shows and stuff like that, you're gonna hate her, right? You're gonna absolutely loathe her. It's like the whole thing when she said, "Oh, I did my own stunts," and then people were showing pictures of the stunt woman that was doing the stunts.
Right.
They her ass to make her ass look weird.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Well, no. But the problem is that if you start paying attention to what these actors say, you're going to hate them all, with very few exceptions. And so that's why I just decided, screw it, I'm not dealing with it. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on.
Sure.
So Life with Matthew donated $1. He's seeing dolphins everywhere he goes now. And for those of you that don't know, he received a Darwin the Dolphin action figure last night while we were watching Sharknado. He got it from Thomas Potts, so which was awesome. Which I don't know if you know this, but Matthew hates Darwin the Dolphin.
I did not know that. No, I know he watches Sequest, but
yes,
yeah. With WandaVision having a $225 million budget, that just tells me one thing. It's like, you know what? Even if it's just for one season, we could get a really good Incredible Hulk one season show. I mean, with that kind of a budget, the Hulk doesn't have to show up every episode, but it's get Mark Ruffalo back, get him out of that stupid merged Hulk sort of
Yeah, that shit's retarded, dude. Because everybody's been waiting for a standalone Hulk forever.
Well, but that's
Well,
Yeah,
part of it was a
and
legal
especially with
issue
him.
because of Universal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but now that's over with now, and
Right.
and you know the thing is that right when we got the most perfect, the best version they could possibly have come up with, the very next movie he gets clobbered,
Right.
and then the following movie after that he turns into just basically Banner with green skin and
Yeah.
it's just and it's like and that those versions of that character have never been as popular as the
Right.
as the
The
classic
classic,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get a little caught up in the chat here real quick. So Renegade says, I think I read what there was talk about considering streaming for Oscars. So I guess the Emmys would be the next step. I think it would make sense for the Emmys more than the Oscars, but unless the motion picture theater industry never comes back, in which case you might just make the Oscars into a streaming award. Donnie says, hello, Michael, Dan, Ensign, Ricky, Darren, and all. Hey. Aravic is saying, I hope that they do a good job with Cowboy Bebop and Lord of the Rings. I think Lord of the Rings is a mistake. I really do.
I don't know.
I'm not sold on that. When it comes out, I'll check it out. But I still think it's a mistake.
I'm still waiting for the Elder Scrolls movie.
And well, I'll tell you, I think that the one that I'm looking forward to, and I got to say, my stepfather-in-law, he's not my father-in-law, he's my wife's stepfather, but he's a great guy, and for Christmas he gave me an Apple TV box, and I use Roku. I had no intention of getting an Apple TV box. I don't really give a crap about Apple, but he gave it to me for one reason only. He knows me pretty well, and he knows my appreciation of good sci-fi, and Apple is producing a original program for their streaming service, and which is a adaptation of Foundation, the Isaac Asimov trilogy.
Oh, wow.
And and I look up the trailer, Ensign Ricky. It is beautiful. And so if you know Foundation, you'll say, oh yeah. But it's, they haven't given a release date yet, but that's what I'm definitely looking forward to. And the new wave of streaming services is the only way it could be done. Because you need that kind of budget.
The trailer has got the guy who played Ronan the Accuser.
Yeah, there's and I can't remember the name of the guy. It's been so long since I've read the book. I can't remember the name of the characters.
Yeah.
But the main guy,
3 books, weren't there?
Yeah, but the guy that designed the whole master plan that came up with Psychohistory. I can't remember what his name is, but the guy they have playing him, you'll recognize him, and great choice, just a phenomenal choice. But look at the strength of DS9's beta and gamma cast. Absolutely. Well, that's the thing about having a big cast. If you have episodes that focus it, like you have Quark episodes and they're awesome. You have Cisco episodes and they're awesome. You have Bashir episodes. You have you take and build episodes around all these different characters, and by the end of the show, you feel like you really know them. Whereas on Discovery, you kind of know Michael Burnham, but really all you know is that everybody thinks she's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The best.
Renegade says, I know you don't like looking at the meta of show production, but the something of the STD production crew from season 1 onwards is why it fails as a serial. The disunity. Well, I think it's more than that. I do think that the disunity of, where they've had to replace showrunners and stuff like that. But you know what? They just have TV staff writers that don't know jack about science fiction, and they just said, write a science fiction show. And they don't know what the hell
they can basically make a show look really good.
Right.
Just
it looks
really
beautiful.
bad. Yeah. I mean, it's a gorgeous show, but I mean, like, then again, like I said, shows like, the Orville and Seth MacFarlane, prove to the world that you can take an old age aesthetic, just polish it up a little, and fucking make it successful.
Right. And Renegade says, in Kirk's defense, he had been court-martialed with falsified computer logs, so he might be reluctant to trust a voice ID match. Interesting you should say that, Renegade, because as you know, if you watch my channel at all, I'm going through episode by episode of the original series right now. And I will tell you that this episode is before court-martial.
Yeah.
So no, he had not yet at this point. But the as Conscience of the King is before court martial, and even if it wasn't, I mean, my God, he's an eyewitness. You know, come on.
Yeah.
He's heard Kodos's voice. When he gave Kodos the speech, and Kodos gave the speech without reading the card, and then and Kirk even could hear it, and you could see it on his face. Come on, you could convict him anywhere. Karoga would convict him, but no, whatever.
That's 60s television limitations. I think that's what that is. You know,
who's more over the top though, Critical Drinker or Cinema Sins? I would say Critical Drinker, honestly. As far as letting their integrity go for the sake of a laugh, I think Critical Drinker does it more than Cinema Sins, because Cinema Sins, yes, sometimes some of the stuff he says is like, come on. You know, or there's an explanation for. But I get the feeling it's because I can't remember the name of the guy that does Cinema Sins. I think he's just not a deep fan of these franchises. So when he says, "Hey, what the heck is that going on? That doesn't make any sense," he's saying it because he's not thinking about the big picture.
He's being deliberately obtuse.
Right.
He's not even trying to understand it. He's just going off of an emotional response.
Right. Yeah. So if you watch it, but you're are you okay, Ricky?
Right? I don't know. It just fucking reminds me of some like Jacksepticeye type shit.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, you just kind of like just ramble and scream like you don't know what's going on. I don't know.
Valor says, what do you expect about the Phantom Menace? Just proves how terrible it is. The Phantom Menace is just garbage. I disagree. I'm not going to say the Phantom Menace is garbage. I'm going to say that people at the top of the Phantom Menace, and you know, some of them I consider my friends, although I have to say after Gary kind of dissed me on one of the live streams, I was a little pissed off, but hey, whatever. But you know, as far as I don't think they're garbage. I think that they have a legitimate grievance, but now they're just carrying it too far. Now they just want to hate things because, oh my God, Kathleen Kennedy is still employed. Therefore, anything that Disney does is horrible. You know. And I'm sorry, you know, screw that noise. If the show is good, the show is good. I don't care if Kathleen Kennedy is still working.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, even now, if the show is good, they just stay away from it. They don't like praise it.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. They were a lot of them were very quiet about Mandalorian.
Actually pretty good this season. Wow, it's a great show. You know, this is a good season. And say if the last season was shit, they hated on it. They're not gonna. They can't go against the narrative because they've already placed the narrative. You know what I'm saying? Like they're. I feel bad for them because they're kind of confined.
Right.
To the model that they traded. You know what I mean? Like they do nothing but feed the beast now, basically, you know?
Victory will defeat them.
Right. And it's like I'll tell you, what was it? Something that Doomcock. Oh yeah. Doomcock made a video. This was, I don't know, last year sometime. I don't remember when. But he made a video called Why I Love Star Trek. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a good, positive video. I'm actually, I want to see this. Right. And he starts out talking about, you know, even though not entirely accurate, but whatever, he starts talking about Gene Roddenberry's vision and how beautiful it was and all that. But here's the thing. Then he starts going on a tirade about how Kurtzman has ruined the franchise. I'm like, dude, the video's called Why You Love Star Trek. Shut up about Kurtzman. Can you talk for 1 minute without saying Kurtzman or Kennedy?
Right.
You know, and so, you know, I'm sorry. It's just, it's get over it. I know you don't like him.
Rough day of surfing that algorithm. You know,
it's just sickening to me. I'm sorry. It is. It's just wrong. If I get it, I know that Kurtzman has done a lot of bad stuff with Trek. It doesn't mean Kurtzman is the Antichrist. You know,
well, I mean, you can't stay true to yourself, okay, and that's the big thing. You can't stay true to yourself, even when something, you know, information tells you otherwise. You know, it's like, say you and a bunch of people were hating this thing, and it was fucking shit produced, but I'll be said, like, the next season is fucking great, and you think it's great, but are you going to say it's great because the rest of the people hate it, or you know, I mean, you have to break away from that narrative. You cannot. You have to be true to yourself. You got to be like, hey, you know, and that's why, like, you know, how Trek Yards does it, because it's positive and negative. Right. And then you know, sometimes.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of respect. I mean, Captain Foley is, you know, he's been stuck at like 40, 50,000 subs for a long time, and he should have a lot more. But the problem is that if you're giving your honest opinion, it's not sexy. What's sexy is to sit there and talk about how horrible these people are.
Yeah. I mean, like that's got us like 7 likes right there. Me just saying that. You know, we got
Captain Foley is.
We got 5 more viewers because I said those words.
Yeah, Captain Foley is successful for a number of things, but one of them is his discipline when he's making videos and when he's commenting, and his honesty. You know,
you trust him. You know that he's giving you his opinion on it, not
he's
just
genuine.
he's not just.
Sometimes they do lean. You know, sometimes trick arts lean, but I mean, but they keep it moderate. And
what they do though is because here's the thing about Foley that I've noticed is that like he's a lot kinder to shows like Discovery, not because he thinks the show is any good, but because he likes the ships, right? Because that's what he's all about.
Yeah, he's all about the ships. Yeah.
And so, I mean, he would literally be a ship porn addict if there was such a thing, right? So
he's a ship porn addict.
Well, I mean, he's he's some of these days somebody's gonna have to count how many starships, not just Enterprises, but everything he has in his home, because I'm sure it's in
it's because I had
hundreds at least.
Tell me about the correlation between people who love cars and love starships. It's the same. People who love cars usually love starships.
Chris says, when did Clooney become loony? Well, I want to say about puberty probably, but honestly, for me, it was like, hi, Freeze, I'm Batman.
Well, that wasn't. He didn't write that line. He just said it.
I know, but he said, "Oh man, that was the most phoned-in role ever."
Yeah. Now, the other thing I think is interesting about Foley is he does not suffer sycophants well.
Yeah.
Most people will take excessive compliments, but he's kind of like, I used to own a cat, right? His name was Panzer. He was a black cat, and you could pet him once. You could pet him a second time, but if you reached to pet him a third time, he would nip at you. He only wanted to be stroked twice. In fact, he only liked it was weird because if you only stroked him once, he'd nip at you again for not stroking him that second time. But it had to be exactly 2 strokes, and that's it. Foley's kind of like that. You can compliment him; he'll say thank you, but that's where you stop, because then I can just tell by the look on his face he does not like being sycophantically worshipped,
right?
So if he detects anything close to that, he gets upset.
Valor says the Phantom Menace, everything wrong with the fandom. They're not helping the fandom, just hurting it. At this point, I would agree that they are hurting the fandom. Because if they keep it up, this is the problem that I have with what the Phantom Menace is doing now, is that when shows like Mandalorian come out, especially what happened at the end of season 2, right? When that kind of thing happens, if we are not screaming from the mountaintops, yes, thank you, then guess what? You ain't going to get that again.
Absolutely, because I mean, once they get what they want, what do you do when you get what you want? You continue.
My issue is that they perpetuate the negative stuff, because I can tell you that CBS, they look at internet buzz. Are people talking about Discovery? Well, when you've got the Phantom Menace, Doomcock, Mecha Random, and they're all talking about it, even though they're bitching about it, even though they're criticizing it, saying it's bad, they don't look at that. They look at, are people talking about it?
Well, and some of them think that, that means that we're pissing off the right people.
Right. Yeah. So if they just, and this is an impossibility, I understand, but if they just stop talking about Discovery,
right? Oh, that ain't gonna happen.
Then you're that is a more sure way of it going away quicker than if you continue to rail against it.
Well,
because that's how these studios look at it.
Yeah, I mean, engagement. Like, they're engaging with this. I mean, even if it's bad or good, any publicity, good publicity.
Right.
Renegade says, anyone who thinks Captain Marvel's the worst movie has never seen Manos' Hands of Fate. Well, I will go you one better. I'm sorry. Birdemic is worse than Manos. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to say Dark Star. Dark Star is one of my worst.
Oh, you haven't seen Manos then, Ensign?
I haven't seen Veronica, but I've heard it's very bad.
Bradley,
I tried to work for that.
It's like one of John Carpenter's first movies, Dark Star. It is so. it's a little nuts, but it's about like a crew that gets stuck in space and how they go mad. It's insane.
Bradley says, have you seen the animated Planet Hulk movie? I did. Honestly, I've never been a fan of Planet Hulk. I know some people think it's awesome. I never cared for it. I was fine with what they did in Thor Ragnarok as far as that's the Planet Hulk movie right there. But the animated one I did see. I didn't care for it that much. But hey, if you loved it, great. Yeah.
Yeah. Beta Ray Bill instead of Silver Surfer, for example. Right. But yeah.
Dreams Out There says another amazing Apple shows for all mankind show about what happens when the Russians beat the U.S. to the moon. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it, and I don't particularly like alternate history movies. What if Germany won World War II? I don't care because it didn't happen.
I thought What If Marvel was pretty cool.
What was that?
I thought What If Marvel was pretty cool.
Well, What If is different though, because that's what if a scenario that we wrote it the other way.
The other way around, yeah.
Right. It's not. I'm talking about real history. It's not like saying right. Well, Brightburn, I actually liked. I thought Brightburn was a clever idea, but I'm talking about like movies like that one where what if the Russians beat the Americans to the moon? How would the world be different? It might be an interesting enough thing, but it's like
wasn't that a movie in the 80s?
The moon.
Oh, God, we're not going to go there, Darren. We're not going there tonight.
Okay.
Red Dawn situation.
Right. Well, like Red Dawn wasn't talking about what if history was different. It was like, what if the Russians invaded right now? That kind of thing. Let's see. I came back and watched your erotic video after not watching for a year or so. I felt Gary got kind of violent, was angry more than he used to be. He curses a lot now. I haven't watched him in a while, to be honest, because quite frankly, I mean, the last time I looked at his channel, it was like everything looks exactly the same way as it did a year ago. He as far as his actual videos. Let me see. Nerderotic. Let me go to his channel right now and let's see what his last few videos are. Batwoman is a hilarious disaster. Batwoman Season 2 flops. Lord of the Rings is doomed. Star Trek Discovery's hilariously awful Season 3. Doctor Who, the worst special. It's embarrassingly bad. Wonder Woman 1984, a disaster. Every single video is talking about how something failed.
Every video.
Except for, I'm sorry, there's one that's not. Luke Skywalker saved Disney Star Wars. But
yeah, of course.
But then it said, no, this is great. This is the name of his video. Luke Skywalker saved Disney Star Wars / Kathleen Kennedy's failure is complete.
What?
That's the name of the video.
So he had to fucking add those last fucking
So I'm sorry, and every single one of his things is the same thing. It's just either Kathleen Kennedy or some other person with googly eyes on them. I don't care. I'm done. And so if Gary, he makes a ton of money doing that. He's got 320,000 subscribers. Awesome. I hope he, I wish him well. But at the same time, I don't buy that that's what Gary really thinks about this stuff because I've talked to him. Mm-hmm. I don't buy it. I think he's putting on a caricature but now he's got to throw me under the bus because, oh my God, Anti-Tricker actually speaks his mind. Whatever. Have fun with that. You know what? I would love to have 300,000 subscribers. I would quit my job tomorrow and just do YouTube full time. Right. But that being said, I ain't going to sell my soul to do it.
That's what it is. It's selling your soul.
I'd sell my sperm to do it.
Yeah, I'd sell my sperm to do it, sure.
Yeah.
Except that I was fixed, so I don't.
Are you really? Yeah. You really mean that? No.
What?
What do you want with my sperm, Ensign Ricky?
Ensign Ricky he's holding a pitchfork and he's like, yes, I can use your sperm.
My pipe dream right now is for Seth MacFarlane to somehow get the license for Star Trek after it runs out at Secret Hideout.
I hope that way that one of the old producers gets it, either Ira or because right now
Ira would be good.
Project. Yeah. I was working on something and he can't say what it is.
Yeah. And I know,
Yeah, well,
Daniel, you're the only person here that loves the new Star Trek, but look, I get it, difference of opinion there, but here's the problem with the new Star Trek. It's not Star Trek. It's something different. It's like it's an attempt to meld Star Trek into the Expanse, and it's not really the Expanse.
It's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, I like this season. Okay, I like this season way better than season 1, 2. Way better than season 1, 2. And I guess that's only because they expanded on some ideals that they never expanded on in season 1 and 2. I mean, they expanded the show a bit. They let other people take a role, and you got to actually have character development. They didn't 100% run headfirst into.
But the season made no sense. It made zero sense. Why was Michael Burnham so desperate to restore the Federation?
Because she's fucking Michael Burnham, okay?
Yeah. But that's the answer, and that's not an answer.
Right. I'd like to see Shaniqua Martin Green play something else.
Got his shit for real.
You know, I'd even like to see her play Storm, or or some other
I like Storm to actually have an accent.
Great in The Walking Dead.
I haven't seen her in that, but I'm not criticizing Sonequa Martin Green. I'm criticizing the show, right? Yeah. And so it has, let's be real. 99% of the time, if an actor is awesome, it's not because the actor is particularly skilled. Their job is to pretend, right? It's because you have a director that knows how to work with talent,
right?
I mean, my big winners in this episode. I mean, like, I liked Culber a lot better this season. I like Saru a lot better this season. Michael, I don't give a fuck for, but I mean, if they made a Michael and Book show, just Michael and Book, I would be interested because they're.
Oh yeah, I like Book actually. I
mean, Book I thought was a great ad, but if they made a Michael and Book show, that's where they should go. They should just take them two off the fucking ship and go a different direction with them, so Discovery can be set to its own thing. But I mean, obviously, that's not likely to happen. But I mean, still. I didn't like Stamets. They turned Stamets into a fucking pussy this season. Adira, okay, whatever. She was decent, I guess. I don't know. Tilly, didn't care for her. I mean, like,
let's make Ensign Tilly the first officer. That made sense.
Yeah. Tilly had awful eye makeup also.
I mean, the whole time, Georgiou didn't really care for that much. Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. But, I mean, like,
I know Daniel's looking forward to the Georgiou show if that ever happens.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm sure people are because there's a lot of people who are just fans of Michelle Yeoh. You know what I'm saying?
But that's the thing. I'm a fan of Michelle Yeoh, but I don't. I thought Georgiou died in this.
But do you think she can spearhead the show? That's what I'm saying. I mean,
I don't. I think that a section, and I know this is going to piss off Daniel, but and Daniel, I know you're a nice guy about it, but. I think that a Section 31 show is the exact opposite of what Star Trek is.
Well, I mean, if they did it in like a CSI perspective, where they're trying to,
they're gonna have Georgiou being Georgiou, trying to act all badass and how.
Well, that's the whole thing, because it's like up until DS9, no one knew what the fuck or had very little clue of what Section 31 is, but here in Discovery. They're popping through the wall like the A-Team with fucking AK-47s fully loaded.
But it doesn't make any sense.
Like, it's like, dun, 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 Section 31.
Oh, my favorite moment in Discovery has got to be when Georgiou just whips out the black badge and Pike sees, you're covert ops. Okay. What?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a covert operation.
We're going to recruit the Emperor. But I mean,
and she says, "Fun times."
Yeah, she'll have.
Could you imagine if you're a CIA agent infiltrating an enemy military or something, and you keep in your wallet a CIA business card? That's how stupid.
But I mean, like as far as like even like all the other channels. I mean, I am pretty much almost borderline with Kowalski on season 3, where there's a lot of things he really hated, and I hated those exact same things, and there's things that he liked. And,
I haven't watched Kowalski in a while. I don't know what he said.
But I mean, usually he's over positive. I mean, he's usually the.
Well, yeah. He's loved the show overall.
But I mean, even like he was, skeptical. He's like, the fucking burn, I hate it. They made Michael Byrne captain, I hate it. And he's like, I have to put my own personal bias aside and say, is this good for the show or going forward? Because I mean, like internally, because of everybody's hate of Michael Burnham, they don't like the decision. Right. And he hit it 100% on the head that people have to put their personal bias aside because it's like in a situation of like Kirk, where Kirk had to save the episode. You know, that's now Michael Burnham. But the only problem they're missing is she doesn't have a Spock or McCoy. She has no one to fucking. She is in a class by herself, all by herself. She's got Book. That's it. You know, I mean, she doesn't go to Saru and be like, "Well, Saru, da 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 da." You know, it's usually between them. It's
she's
like
the best at everything.
Yeah, it's a crying fest between them.
Yeah.
You know, she goes to Tilly. It's a crying fest between her and Tilly. There's no moral support. There's no triumvirate. You know what I'm saying?
Now,
per se.
Daniel, what were you trying to say?
Even Steve Shives liked season 3. I remember I gave you the video.
Steve,
he was talking about.
I'm not watching Steve Shives. I'm sorry.
I mean, I see that pop across my screen too, and I was like, "Nah, I'm not going to watch this one."
Look, Steve Shives. This is my problem with Steve Shives. And don't get me wrong, I will not watch a Steve Shives video on principle, and that's because he specifically asked that if you are more conservative than him, and he just defines conservatives not being left wing. So if you're a conservative in his eyes, then you should not watch his channel. And so,
He did say that.
He did say that.
Yeah, he 100% said that.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, and I actually put a video up where I showed myself unsubscribing from his channel because Steve and I we were friends back in the day, and I've talked to him a few times. He's a good guy as far as having a conversation with. He's completely Batwoman crazy with some of his political opinions, but you know, whatever. And but if he's going to sit there and say, I don't want to hear what you say, and I'm going to dismiss anything you say, okay, F you, I'm gone. Have a nice life.
Pretty much. That's what, you know, that's the way he put it. And he probably lost a lot of subscribers that day.
Yeah, but, well, I don't know how many conservatives actually subscribe to him. But you know, and the funny thing is, it's like he said, oh, how could a conservative possibly like Star Trek? Dude, stop watching it through your pink lens.
Right? You know, like, what?
It's
not... Gunboat diplomacy was what the original series was all about, and
right.
And even in the Berman era, in the Berman era, a lot of the stuff that they thought was cutting edge progressive is now considered center right.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, absolutely. You know, and it's like, you know, it was cowboy diplomacy basically.
Yeah. Doomcock keeps the hate flowing, and what bugs me is he lies to the fans about Roddenberry, and I got a question if he's even a fan. I think he's genuinely a fan, but I also think that what he's saying is just to get clicks. That's the bottom line with his channel.
It's like, I mean, like, you can't acknowledge that Roddenberry was, I mean, like, he had a certain skill set that, you know, helped Star Trek for sure. All right. He was a very good scout for talent. Very good. He picked the best possible people he could get to play the roles that he wanted, and he got them. And but as far as that, you know, other than that, he was charismatic. People that liked him and that he liked, he treated like gold. People that he did not like or weren't in his circle, he treated like complete shit. And then as far as like the womanizing thing, he is comparable to Harvey Weinstein. He was like a Harvey Weinstein of that era, you know, and that's because that's what Hollywood was back then. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you want to roll on Star Trek? Well, you know, Gene's right there. Go ask him. You know, and unfortunately, that, you know,
why do you think Grace Lee Whitney got fired?
Yeah, you know how shitty it sounds and how shitty it was. But
why do you think Diana Muldaur got to come back
3 times? Ooh.
And
but, I mean, there's you know, stories where people walk in office and, you know, fucking, you know, Nichelle Nichols is walking out of his office, fucking sweaty as fuck. You know, and, you know, I mean, that's just fucking unnerving, you know, I mean, but I mean, it's true. He was not a good man per se, as far as, you know, treating women or relationship wise, that was not his thing.
But even so, like when I look at Trek, and the problem is that I get it. Gene Roddenberry's name is on there as created by, and will always be on there as created by. Fine, but if you look at Trek he created, it's not what Trek became. And
absolutely not.
And so it's what we love about Trek has nothing to do with Gene Roddenberry. And a lot of people don't realize that what Gene Roddenberry hated in Star Trek were movies like Star Trek II and Star Trek VI. Arguably the two best films.
5 too, because 5 was his original idea.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he created a loose framework that other people got to put the meat on.
Right.
And you know, he didn't human well. I mean, the idea that all conflict was going to come from without, and that the crew is going to get along just fine and be in perfect harmony. Who would want to watch a show like that?
Yeah,
well, I
like,
mean, like
TNG.
People are like, his vision
Hey,
was about unity, and those
People are good.
his vision was completely about unity and about promoting how many. Then why did he write characters like Harry or fucking or fucking why did he write evil characters? There's obviously he didn't believe the future was going to be 100% kosher. That was not his idea. He wouldn't have wrote other characters.
Roddenberry's ideal episode would have been something like Operation Annihilate, where the villain is a non-speaking threat,
Right,
and a problem to be solved rather than a person. And that was he gravitated more.
But he didn't like
that.
He didn't like that Spock and McCoy would bicker. He didn't like that.
Well, I mean, he wrote a handful of episodes and made some iconic characters. There you go. Yeah. There's his contribution. He made Data. He made a lot of the characters on TNG. He wrote several episodes of TOS that.
Yeah, but the funny thing, even like that, you look at
okay. You know what I'm saying?
But you think about that, Ensign. You say, "Oh, he made Data." He did, and guess what? Data sucked until other people got a hold of him, and made him an interesting character, right? So
because by season 3 of TNG, he was out of the picture basically.
Right.
That's when Berman took over. So
he wanted Worf to be just a guy in the background.
Yeah, he didn't even give a fuck about Worf. He was just Worf was like this accessory, basically.
All right, so let me get caught up in the chat. Then we're going to wrap up in just a minute here, but. Valor says, Gary is a perfect example why children shouldn't do drugs. Hey, now, come on, that's not nice. I don't know if Gary does drugs or not. I mean, granted, I don't know if he's still in California.
Well, I mean, Gary said he's a recovering addict. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So let's not get personal there. Tim says you make a good caricature too. Thanks, I guess. Benny says, hello, y'all. How you doing, Benny? Manasan says, viewer Star Trek character. Who would you be? Who would each of you be? Well, that's easy. Darren would be Dr. McCoy because he's crabby. Ensign Ricky already is a Star Trek character. He's Ensign Ricky. So, Daniel, who would you be?
Oh, so Daniel gets to pick who he is, and I don't get to pick Ryan?
Yeah, you have to be McCoy because you're crabby.
Oh, I was gonna pick O'Brien, but okay.
Okay, I'll let you be O'Brien.
There you go. The most important man in Starfleet.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, who would you be versus who do you want to be? I mean, let's be real.
100% Garrick.
Garrick? You would.
Garrick is my favorite character in all of Star Trek.
Plain and simple Garrick.
Just a simple tailor.
You fight well for a tailor.
Right? Yeah. You fight well for a tailor.
Let's see.
That's amazing, Mr. Garrick. How'd you learn that? Oh, it's just something I overheard hemming trousers.
Yeah.
I didn't know you knew how to speak Klingon. You'd be surprised the things you picked up when you're doing.
Yeah. Probably Garrick because Garrick is cool. I've always liked Garrick. He's one of my favorite characters in Deep Space Nine.
He's my favorite character in Star Trek because no other series has a Garrick.
So the Wire. Yeah, The Wire is probably one of my favorite episodes of all Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, Roddenberry would absolutely have hated Garrick.
And I mean, Dennis McCarthy did such great job with the ominous music in DS9, like the background music, especially during The Wire. Oh, my God, it's such a great episode. I mean, that's probably, and arguably his best episode other than In the Pale Moonlight.
Right.
But, I mean, still, I mean, just the acting in the episode is phenomenal.
Okay.
He fucking puts it on the fucking table, dude. I mean, it's just like, damn,
I saw an interview with Ronald D. Moore where he was talking about when he had written the episode Family, I believe it was, which was the follow-up to The Best of Both Worlds. It was the episode that happened right after. And apparently Roddenberry demanded to talk to Ronald D. Moore, and so he and Berman went in there. Now, Berman basically told him ahead of time, just pretend that whatever he says to you is sinking in. Don't say anything. And basically for half an hour, Roddenberry chewed him out for not understanding what the point of the episode was. This was the episode where we meet, Picard's family on the vineyard. That great episode everybody remembers as a follow-up to and Roddenberry was just like, what is the point of this episode? I don't understand it. And Berman just sat there and they took it and they walked out and Berman's like, yeah, back to business.
Yeah, and that's how it was. But a lot of things like they couldn't do because the studio at the time, the studio just would say no. Like an instance where Ronald D. Moore, the episode where Nog gets his leg blown off, there was supposed to be an ensign in the episode that gets her head completely blown off, just to prove a point that they're in a dangerous situation. So
it's a war as hell episode.
Ronald D. Moore went to Furman. He's like, well, how about this ensign? She gets her head, and then he's like, whoa, wait there. Let me go talk to the guys in the studio. So he goes up to talk to the guys in the studio. He comes back. He's like, well, there's good news and there's bad news. And he's like, well, what's the bad news? Like, well, the ensign, she doesn't die. And he's like, what's good news? Well, she doesn't even get to exist.
Well, TNG got into a lot of trouble in the first season when they showed that guy getting his head phasered off.
Oh, conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
And the funny thing is, you look at it now and it's like, it's pretty.
It's just like the worst effects ever.
It's
the music,
practical effects. It was the thought, though.
I mean, the music in DS9 is ominous. I'm saying the music in TNG is 90s. Like the first 4 seasons, it's 100% 80s, late 80s.
Oh man, that synth version of the Star Trek theme.
It's so bad. It's like listen, it's like the music. I'm like,
oh no, no.
God, it's so bad.
Tim says all the Michael and Book adventures reference were more interesting than what was in the episodes. Very true.
True.
Yeah, they kept saying, "Oh yeah, it's like that time we did," and I hated that because it's like,
those sound like much better scenarios than this was. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. They should just fucking make a Michael Book show.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't mind if it's I don't mind if you do a running gag like with Hawkeye and Black Widow, and they kept referencing Budapest, right? And you're just like, what the hell happened to Budapest? But that was just meant to be a running gag because we saw them doing awesome things.
Well, it reminds me of the second Star Trek JJ film, Into Darkness, when they reference, we're going to use the ship we confiscated from the Mud incident.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get to see the Mud incident?
I want to see that movie, and I think they mentioned giant green hands holding the ship in place. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I want to see that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Valor says, seen a lot of Phantom Menace actually attack people and not their work. Why should anyone want to listen to the Phantom when all they are personal toxic attacks? The problem is that's what gets clicks. That's the honest truth of it. If you sit there and say, how much you hate someone, you get a lot of people to watch. If you say, let's talk about what's real here, then people are like, oh, okay.
Controversy is built into the human psyche.
Right.
It's like if you went to Facebook and posted like, hey, I had, this for lunch, that's going to get a lot less traction than you go into Facebook and say, hey, fuck Trump. 100%. You are going to gain that post that you just made is going to gain so much fucking attention. People are like, what? And then that's just ingrained human nature. I mean, it's just we tend to look we look first at the controversial, then later at
it's more interesting.
Yeah.
It's just like how you got to look at a car wreck, right? You want to see, is there a body? And
right. You're drawn to it.
Multi-Gunman says, hi, how you doing? Multi-Gunman says, confirmed that Anti-Trekker hates Steve Shives. No, I didn't. I do not hate Steve Shives. I think he is crazy, but I like him personally. I unsubscribed at his request. Because he said, if you're conservative, unsubscribe to my channel because anything you say, I'm going to ignore anyway. So I'm like, okay, fine. And Professor Brady Speck says Daniel's hot topics should be mourned because he talks too much. Yes. And Valor said it wasn't meant to be a personal attack. He himself said he did a lot of drugs. I get that, but it's still. I mean, that's not. It was. I mean, let's be real. Yeah, the guy had a drug problem. So just because he says some stupid things, that doesn't mean it's because he took drugs. All right. There are plenty of people that don't take drugs that still say stupid things. All right. Now, if Gary was, and I know he's, I think he's a recovering alcoholic, actually.
Yeah, he's recovering alcoholic, I believe.
Yeah,
he talks about it. He makes it clear.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's a tough road for some people. I mean, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that, but I know people that have, and it looks horrible, and so I'm kind of glad that I'm lucky enough to not have to fight that demon.
Yeah, I'm a recovering Catholic.
There you go.
That's almost as bad.
Even worse.
Yeah. Anyway, so I am going to wrap it up here because I do have to get up bright and early to go to work tomorrow for 12 hours. But thank you, Ensign Ricky, Darren, and Daniel, as always. I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you to everybody that was hanging out for us.
Can I say one thing before you close the shop?
Oh no, what?
Remember, you can't have a vacuum without a barrier.
Oh, dun, 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 dun.
I knew he was going to say that. I just knew.
Watch The Expanse. It's fucking phenomenal.
You should watch The Expanse. I'm still a few episodes behind, so don't spoil it, but I am really liking the season so far.
Yeah, this season upped it up a notch. I mean, this season is as closest to the book as you're going to get. Like, this is the only season that I've seen it where it's almost turn for turn what happened in the book.
Yeah. And I think that Expanse, if you want dirty, gritty, nasty sci-fi, Expanse is what you should be watching. But you have to watch it from the beginning, and yes, the first season is slow. But
I mean, I say read the books first because the books are a much deeper dive.
But it's so worth it. That's the thing. It is absolutely worth it.
Because the books take it to a further level scientifically,
right,
and philosophically. Like, you get a lot more philosophical debates in the books and scientific knowledge in the books where they actually break down the science behind the shit. And they won't do that.
The nice thing about it is that even if you're, if you know enough to be dangerous as far as understanding a little bit about science, you can tell that it's hardcore, meaning that they're trying to be scientifically accurate. The only real cheat in the show, as far as the human tech, not talking about the alien stuff, but as far as the human tech, the only cheat they have is the Epstein drive, and really all that's doing is making it so they don't have to constantly.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say as much as the Epstein drive, because that would probably be inevitable that somebody created, but the juice that gets pumped in them to keep them stable, and that's probably the most sci-fi thing they have.
Right.
Otherwise,
but that's pretty minor stuff. I mean, there's no warp drive, there's no transporters, there's not even any ray guns.
Well, I mean, they keep it through the thing where when the ship is moving, they have gravity. When the ship is not moving, they don't have gravity because the thrust creates the gravity.
Right. So, and I love the fact that, and because this is something you would actually do if you could accelerate at, I can't remember what's the acceleration rate of gravity again. It's like something meters per second squared, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I forgot the fucking formula.
But whatever it is, so if you accelerate at that speed, and this is the way that you would design a ship if you wanted a long-term ship, you would be constantly accelerating towards your destination until you reach the halfway point. Then you would flip the ship end over end and constantly decelerate at that same speed for the second half of your trip. You did it that way. Sense, right? Yeah, if you did it that way, you would have gravity the entire trip. And that actually, 23 feet per second, right, but it's 9.7 meters per second squared. Thank you, Ron.
1G, okay.
Yeah. So if you accelerate at, so let's just say 10 meters per second, and you're constantly accelerating at that speed, then as soon as you're halfway, you flip the ship end over end, and you constantly decelerate at 10 meters per second, then you will have Earth gravity the entire time. And that's what I love about The Expanse, is that like they'll spend entire episodes where the ship is just decelerating the entire episode. And I talk to friends who are like, why is the ship constantly like retro rockets? Because that's real.
I mean, the holography, the technology in the show is 100% fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Where their TVs follow them around the room, like hollow projections, and how they're able to go into computers and expand things and on the hollow screen or whatnot. I mean, the holography in that show is 100% amazing. And obviously, this is the stuff that we're jumping into now. So I mean, you would think that it was a perfect advancement to what we have now. But I mean, the sad thing is that world and that sci-fi, that whole science fiction universe mirrors our own world the best too, and the way it's going. I mean, because basically Mars breaks off from Earth, and all the rich people, Texans and Indians, all go to Mars. They form their own colony. You can see that happening now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
Half on Earth, 2/3 of it. I mean, there's 30 billion people on Earth. 2/3 of them are on welfare, and 1/3 of them work. And that's pretty much the situation there. And everybody lives on a thing called basic, which is your basic income. And
which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but that's something the federal government is proposing right now.
Absolutely. And
they're talking about a $2,000 per month stipend for every American.
If Elon takes all these people to Mars, who's going to follow him? The absolutely fucking rich. What do you think they're going to do on Mars? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like we're heading into the Expanse world, and it's kind of weird. And even the creators have said, this is kind of eerie the way we're moving, we didn't mean our story to be like the prototype or the blueprint for the future. We just wanted to make good sci-fi, and they actually made The Expanse because they wanted to make an RPG. And that's how The Expanse got started. Both creators and their wives got together, and one of them had made an RPG, made this world, and the other one was a writer. And they're like, hey. And so, I mean, this all started off as a tabletop RPG. Right. And then the books, and he's like, basically, you know what? Like now they're saying, he's like, you know, when you make a $1 million show, you sell a lot of books.
And Tom,
it's just like, it's the best book commercial we ever had.
Tom says it almost seems to me as if early Expanse of ships went in a different direction than now, but then I'm an idiot. First of all, you're not an idiot, and I'm not sure what you mean by the ships went in a different direction. If it just felt like maybe it was the way they were doing the effects just felt different to you.
Yeah, I mean they are basically Swiss Family Robinson in space.
Yeah,
I mean
anyway. But I know Ensign Ricky's going to keep me trying to keep me talking all night, but I do need to get some sleep. So say goodnight, Ricky.
Good night.
You were supposed to say goodnight, Ricky. That would have been
good night.
There you go. Oh wow, you showed yourself. I'm scared. What game are you playing?
Cyberpunk.
Okay, very cool. All right, guys, have a good one. Say goodnight, Daniel.
All right, good night.